Hello again. So it's time for our second session today, which is going to be a very, very important one. I see that you're still gathering. That's okay. One reminder. On the wall here and there on the other wall that you probably can't see, you can scan the QR code and you can submit questions. But you don't have to do it. You'll be able to ask questions as well right after the panel, the discussion that we're going to have here, because the topic is super, super important. During the previous one that we had, that we just finished a couple of minutes ago, the majority of the people in this room said that you use AI extensively. Of course we all do. But now, how to do it right? I'm sure you see tons of generic AI content. Personally, I do, and it's driving me crazy. So how to do it right, and what are the threats? Because there are actually tons of threats. And today, luckily for all of us, we have a great expert who is everything about content, everything about digital marketing. She's a former journalist, and she's also a comms expert. She's the founder of Vampire Digital and ThinkByte. She's going to talk about IP and copyright essentials for creative freelancers in the era of artificial intelligence. Zsike Peter, a warm welcome for her. Please welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that lovely intro. And to start with, there's a new freelance writer flooding all our feeds. And he sounds perfectly polite, polished, keeps things on brand, but he's quite boring. And his name is Corporate Colin. And Corporate Colin is what happens when you write with ChatGPT, when you outsource your thinking to AI. But I don't want to just talk about boring content, because today I want you to realize what we might lose if we over-rely on producing everything we write with AI, and if we start our thinking process with AI. Because those creative muscles, you're going to find that you'll lose very quickly. And if you outsource your voice, you outsource your responsibility as well. And that's really dangerous as a freelancer when you're producing work for other people, as well as for building your own brand. So this isn't just a creative crisis. It's an ethical one, a moral one, and a philosophical one, and we need to talk about it. My name is Zsike Peter, and I'm the founder of Vampire Digital, which is a creative content marketing agency. And I'm also the creator and founder of ThinkByte. And ThinkByte was born out of sheer frustration from seeing the AI sludge, the fluff, the nonsense porridge that ChatGPT comes up with. And so I feel like it's a movement against reclaiming human creativity and an allergic reaction to beige vanilla content that is flooding our feeds. So today you'll learn about a subject that's just as exciting as it's important. As freelancers, we need to be aware of the dangers that AI might pose to us, to our work, to our reputation, and to our livelihood, to our income. So whether you're here out of curiosity or caution, or because your clients keep asking, well, can't you just do it with ChatGPT? Then this talk is for you. So you probably already noticed AI is seriously shaking up the freelance industry. It's a bit like when you leave a birthday cake with a baby, and you know what happens, a huge mess. So large language models have become a really important part of our daily productivity, right? And while that sounds like a dream, many of us forget that there is a fine print. And this dream very quickly could become an absolute nightmare, an ethical nightmare, and even a legal nightmare. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's prolific. But it also raises questions that we are still struggling to answer. Who owns the words that we produce with ChatGPT? Do we owe something to the people that ChatGPT, OpenAI, and all the other large language models have siphoned off of the internet illegally, by the way, stolen from authors? Do we owe them something when we create content that ChatGPT rehashes for us? And what do we do when we lose our creative muscles, our critical thinking skills? Because this is now tracked by scientists. I've been speaking with experts over the last 18 months that young people, especially at universities, producing their essays, their works with AI, are losing. They cannot make their own arguments anymore. They cannot connect data points without using ChatGPT, and they can't construct meaningful sentences. And that's alarming because that's the future generation. So Pandora's box is well and truly open. AI is not going anywhere. And the AI I'm talking about here is specifically large language models, which is, what the general public is using. There are many excellent AI use cases in education, in medtech, health tech. I work with some of those founders. AI can now recognize signs of cancer 5 years before the experts can. That's great. I'm not against that progress. I'm just against that AI replacing our thinking. So AI can spit out 5,000-word books even in under 30 seconds. But the questions we have to ask as freelancers, as writers, and let's be honest, anyone who's a freelancer, solopreneur, has to create their own content, right? You have to produce marketing material, you have to write pitch decks, you have to email for work. You are writing, you are a writer. And so it's so easy to just ask ChatGPT, right? But we are seeing what I call the rise of the 50 shades of beige content everywhere. And everyone sounds like everyone else. Produced by an overly polite robot with the personality of a potato. It's not very exciting, is it? And while boring might be fine if you are writing a frequently asked questions document, when it comes to building your brand, winning business, earning potential clients' trust, boring is not good enough, I'm afraid, especially when everybody else is using the same tone. And like I said, if you start sounding like everyone else, you don't stand out. Nobody's going to notice you. And there's an even bigger risk. We start internalizing this good enough. It's spreading like a virus, and we're getting used to it. And some people are even talking like ChatGPT now, not just writing. So, not sure what that was. It's AI saying, "What are you on about?" So yes, So ethically, we are also entering some murky waters, because if a client hands you an AI written draft and says, just make it sound less ChatGPT, and you rewrite a few words, you polish it here, polish it there, does it mean you own those words now? Right? Where's the line? How much of it do you rewrite so that it's considered to be your work and potentially your client's work? So this is no longer a technical dilemma. It's an ethical and a philosophical one. And if we don't pause and think, truly think, I think we'll end up sleepwalking into an online world, a digital era where real human thought could get lost in this process. Originality could get lost in the process. So how do we preserve it? AI, everybody says AI is a tool, and it's a clever one. It can come in handy, occasionally surprising, even useful. But it's still very much a glorified assistant, okay? It doesn't understand what it's doing. It's computational based off the training data it's received. You, on the other hand, are a brilliant, chaotic, real thinking machine, right? AI doesn't have the essence of you. It doesn't have your lived experiences. It doesn't know what it feels like when you're fired from your job. It doesn't experience heartache. And it cannot write a story after you failed and what it feels to come back and how people perceive you after that failure and then coming back. You have instinct, emotional memory, and a weird sense of humor sometimes. Can't just be me, please tell me. And I think the most important part here is that you have the ability, the instinctive ability to craft sentences that feel like it was written by a human and not a robot. And what's interesting, people can tell, even those who don't use ChatGPT, and this has been tracked and measured by academia, that people will read an AI written copy without knowing that's written by AI. Even if it's polished by a human, they can tell that something feels off. And then you lose trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have a business. So freelancers who take time to question, to think, to analyze, and create from a place from actual human experience, those will be the freelancers who will succeed with or without AI. Because we're not just hired for output. You know, we are hired for discernment, for taste, for knowing when the line lands and when it doesn't, when that message makes sense because you are connecting with the reader on a human level. So let AI pick up the brick, but you build your building. Don't let AI do all the building for you, please. Now, before I get into this one, the juicy part, let me just say that I don't have legal background, but as a responsible freelancer and now business owner employing 10 other freelancers, I have to do my homework and I have to keep on top of this. And I urge you to do the same. You need to bear in mind, though, that things change really fast and the law is barely keeping up with what's happening in the world of AI. But you need to keep an eye on this. It's your responsibility. In terms of how quickly the law is keeping up, it feels like it's still just tying its shoelaces by the start line, and AI is already over there, has done 10 laps. It's impossible, it's changing so fast. But there are some significant cases happening already. As of 2023, the US Copyright Office declared that purely AI-written copy can't be copyrighted by human. So if there's no human hand involved, now I don't know where that line lies specifically with the US law, but if you haven't rewritten it extensively and you've just changed a few words, you cannot claim that as your own original copy. So you can't put that in a book, for example. You can, but you could get into serious copyright infringement law cases if it turns out that AI has picked out just a sentence or a phrase that another author has written somewhere in their book. And ChatGPT won't tell you, oh, by the way, this line belongs to such and such author. You won't know. Also, there are tech companies designing AI tools that will detect original content, and they will alert the author that somebody has stolen your content. So this is already happening as I speak here. It may already be live, but last time I checked, people were working on this technology. And talking about AI detection, for now, the online detectors that we find, which, there's one called NoGPT, they are not very accurate. And apparently humans are much more accurate at telling ChatGPT or human-written content apart. So funnily, our brain still works better than AI. When it comes to the EU has taken more of the stern parent approach, and the European Union stance is much clearer than the UK and the US, who are all about supporting the tech bros because they will vote for us. But I don't want to get too political. The EU basically says that authorship belongs to people, not AI, not predictive algorithms. So no matter how clever that tool is, if there isn't a human involved in a meaningful way, then you don't get rights over the output. And so why does this matter? Because freelancers and clients, our clients, are now blindly uploading AI copy to their websites, writing their email newsletters, with their social media posts, and they assume that that writing is now theirs because it's on their website, but it's not. You don't legally own that. And ethically, right? We talk about the ethical and moral issues here if that is taken from somebody else's work. So this is where knowing the law is super important, or at least trying to keep up with it, for your clients, for your own work, for your reputation, and for your income. Basically, don't allow AI to ghostwrite you out of your business. It's just not very smart. Now, time for a bit of courtroom drama. I'm sure you have all heard of Getty Images, a company known for charging 500 euros or more for a picture of a potato. I'm keeping with the potato theme now for some reason. They filed a legal case against Stability AI. Apparently, this company has trained their image generator with millions of images stolen from Getty Images. And this case is ongoing. And Stability AI didn't even say to Getty Images, can we please, just not even a mention. The case, the first trial is set for next month, actually. It's been filed a year ago, but these things take time. And then the UK government, where I live, they've recently launched a consultation into copyright in AI, and specifically trying to determine, ask whether companies who train AI models, should they be legally required to disclose that they are stealing all our data, right? So that's still ongoing. But if transparency becomes the law, what that will mean is, one, your work can't just be stolen, but you could license your work, right? You could say, I've written this book, or I've written all these essays, all these blog posts over the years. Here you go, OpenAI. You can use it, pay me a licensing fee, knowing that somebody else might reuse your work, if you're happy with that. But it also means that originators will get notified if you use their content in any of your work, okay? So this is all happening in the background, but it will become more public knowledge. So what I'm saying here, you don't necessarily have to slap "made with ChatGPT" on every piece of copy. If you've extensively rewritten it, then I would say you're probably safe, but I'm not a lawyer, so do your homework. And as freelance writers, obviously this is a huge shift for us, and any freelancer is a writer, right? Because as we established, right now your work can be taken, fed into the machine, and you won't know if anybody has used it. Over in the book writing work, the Authors Guild is leading a huge lawsuit because OpenAI apparently has stolen millions of books and fed it into their content churning machine, and they haven't consulted these authors. So there are several tens of thousands of authors globally now taking OpenAI and ChatGPT to court with a solid legal representation. And rightly so, right? Imagine all your life's worth of work is now suddenly available for people to do whatever they want with and not get paid for it. So the lesson is here that you might be liable if you're using AI written copy, and you might not own what you think you do. Is this worth risking your name, your reputation, and your income? Of course, I want to give AI the flowers it does deserve. It can come in handy for the boring, repetitive tasks when you want to just summarize a webinar or make sense of some really dry data, make it readable, or even use it as a starting point if you're facing the blank page. I would, though, say that if you make that regular, if every time you want to start with prompting ChatGPT for an idea, you're going to lose your own thinking muscles, your critical thinking skills. And then how do you know how good the output is when you don't practice the act of creating ideation yourself? So yes, AI shines where it comes to the heavy lifting of making sense of dry data and so on. Think of it like the dishwasher. You know, before you put your plates in the dishes, you have to scrape the gunk off. And that part is where you come in. You have to completely refine the output, make it sound like you. So it's great for speeding things up, but don't opt out of the thinking process. Please practice that along the side. Now, of course, there are cases where a pulse, as in a human, is still necessary. And AI is clever, but it doesn't have emotional depth. If you want to write a brand story that connects with people, if you're a ghostwriting for a founder, for example, where they need razor-sharp strategy and a specific point of view, thought leadership pieces, I'm afraid that AI will fail you every single time. And I know this because as soon as it came out as a creative digital marketing agency owner, I have to know the enemy. It's better the devil you know, right? So I've been playing with these tools since day one. At some point, I even started building my own AI, specific AIs for my clients, thinking, I'll just teach AI to take on the client's tone and it will be fine. And it just wasn't. And it kept getting progressively worse. So it didn't feel right, it didn't feel ethical, and that's where I took a complete U-turn. Because AI doesn't know how to win an award, lose a client, fall in love, or fail miserably and bounce back. It just doesn't. It doesn't have lived experiences. And readers know we are biologically wired to tell when something feels off. And so we lose their trust. So if you're writing anything that is a bridge between a brand and an audience, and that bridge has to lead to trust, and let's be clear, most of us have to build that bridge, right? Then you need to keep your hands firmly on the keyboard. Your voice should not be used like a decoration. It should be your overarching strategy, really. So we can use AI ethically, okay? It's not all bad news. I've got the unofficial code of honor for you. First thing is transparency. If you do use AI, you can add just a note that the strategy or the framework for this body of work was initiated with AI. You don't have to, but I would advise, especially if the legal cases that I mentioned about will come out later and they will be implemented globally. Clients respect honesty, right? And your audience respects your honesty. So I would say that if AI had a role in shaping the outcome that you produced, it's better to just notice that at the end of your work. And second, always be your main editor-in-chief, okay? Don't just copy and paste. I know it's so easy when you're tired and you don't have enough time and you just change the heading. But you need to rewrite, trim the fluff, polish. But more importantly, you need to add your essence. It needs to sound like you, the human, behind what you've written. The essence of you needs to be in there. And finally, understand what these tools do, because AI can't actually create anything new. It will come up with something based on the averages of what it's trained, okay? It's computational, it's not original creation. And you could say, well, humans do the same. It's very difficult to come up with something unique. But our lived experiences allow us to make unique connections and base our work on those. Okay, so you might be asking, who is this woman telling me what to do with my AI tools and my keyboard? Why should I listen to her? I have been writing for a long time, since the age of 16, and snuck into places where I shouldn't have been as a young investigative journalist in Hungary. I'll give you a quick example. I snuck into a brothel once pretending that I want to dance there just so I could interview the women who were forced to work in that environment, and then I wrote a piece about it. So writing is in my blood, and now I work as a creative copywriter. I run my own agency of multiple copywriters, and most importantly, I want to talk about ThinkBait, which is my movement against 50 Shades of Beige vanilla content, and just something to preserve the loss of human creativity. I've been researching this for the last 18 months. I've spent many hours interviewing academia, Harvard professors for my upcoming book, researchers, I work with AI researchers from Harvard and MIT. They are my clients. I write content for them. World-class experts. We work with companies and individual entrepreneurs globally. And I've been interviewing them from, these are people who work on the front lines of AI, professors of linguistics, AI researchers, and they are worried. And one thing, AI, what we're talking about is not real AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It's a large language model. It's generative. But they are also worried. So with ThinkBait, I've been trying to drive this movement and talk about this loudly online and mostly on LinkedIn. And it's gaining some momentum. People are speaking up now and they're worried. Teachers are seeing their students losing their critical thinking skills. So it's important. I just wanted to let you know why I care, because this topics, I think it matters a lot more than just a tool update. I'm not against progress, and I get called a Luddite. That word, it has a negative connotation. It's like, you don't want things move faster. You don't want progress. It's not about that. AI is amazing in edtech, health tech, like I mentioned. But I think it's important that we pay attention to the future of how we create and who owns the words that we create. And final thoughts. So Pandora's box is well and truly open. You can't shut it back. AI is not going anywhere. It's already changed the way we work, so we need to know it. We need to be educated about it, and we need to be aware of the risks that it comes with if we rely on it, okay? Whether we ignore it or not, we still need to know about it, essentially. But it's not all doom and gloom. I do have some good news as well. Your mind is still the most powerful tool you have access to. Your lived experiences, your originality, your perspective. AI doesn't have what's in your mind, unless you spend months and months feeding, that information. But why would you do that? Okay? And even then, it will split something average out of that. So use your mind, please. And, your judgment, your essence, your soul, these things cannot be replicated. No matter how many terabytes of data you train something on, it's not going to have your essence. So my advice to you is use AI like an architect would use a blueprint. Build a frame, but don't carve the cathedral with AI, okay? Use your brain for that. Because you're the one who brings the story to life. The soul, the spark that turns words into meaning and feeling. And if you want to thrive in the freelance economy, or even just in the world, because everybody's using AI for everything, including as a therapist, which is crazy. But you need to learn the rules still. You need to stay informed, protect your work, protect your voice. That's super important. And those who understand the tech and the rules, the ethics, will be leading the pack and not left behind. Okay. Before we go into questions, can I ask you guys to scan that QR code? Just if you want to find out about what ThinkBait is, there is a wait list you can sign up to, and that's all the self-promotion I'm going to say. And please, let's connect on LinkedIn as well. That's where I live, on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you so much for these insights, because personally, if I'm going to see one more post on LinkedIn which is pivotal, instrumental, or with long dashes, I feel like I really want to murder someone, no joke, because this is like, I just don't get it. My personal question to you, before gather your thoughts, 1 second, are there any red flags when you see a post, you see some content, you're like, oh goodness, I mean, it's impossible. Immediately, are there things that you spot with your eye now, being such an expert, and you'll know immediately? So what to completely avoid? What's an absolute no?
So if the latest update of these AI tools, it's almost like a TED Talk, like a super inspirational TED Talk, even when it's talking about the driest topic like taxation. So when it sounds like sentences repeating the same word at the beginning of sentence, so it sounds very overly motivational. The M dashes can be, but I would, as a former journalist, I'm an N, so there's two, M dash and N dash, enthusiast. So somebody who knows proper writing would use N dashes, but because now it's all over, it almost feels like, oh, it must be written by ChatGPT. The giveaway really is that there's no soul in the writing. It sounds like corporate Colin at some boring board meeting, generally. And yeah, the weird emojis, the rocket emoji, the over-enthusiasm of any dry topic. Those are the dead giveaways, I would say, when they don't sound like human. But even if you say, well, why is this sound like ChatGPT? Because it doesn't sound like human. You can't necessarily tell, but there's a sense. And people scroll. This has also been measured by LinkedIn, actually, where if something is AI written, it doesn't hold the reader's eyes, so people just scroll by. And so you lose your authority. As a business owner, you want that authority, that credibility. And I know it's easy to just go ChatGPT it, but it's damaging to your brand.
Really, really thank you once again for all this common sense and the knowledge, because, I'm sure that we really all see all over social media, and also this narrative. And I think this narrative saying that, hey, let's post 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 15 times a week. AI will do everything for you. There are all of these amazing tools. But it's nonsense, right? It's so shallow. Do you even remember your own posts? People don't, right? Then you would ask them, oh, I saw your post yesterday. Which one? This is just crazy. Anyway, who has questions? Wonderful. We have 2 ladies first. My apologies. But we'll get to you.
Yeah.
So let me just, so that everyone can hear for sure, where do you draw the line? Meaning, when do you inform your client, okay, I am using AI, I'm using ChatGPT, not to be like, oh, I'm the freelancer, I will become useless because I actually admitted I'm using ChatGPT, right? Or AI to generate my content. So where do we draw the line in terms of that?
I think if you have interviewed the client extensively, so if you know what their product or service is, and without giving away their intellectual property, if you brainstorm with AI top-level content ideas based on those interviews. So, we do that. I'm completely transparent about this in my content agency, is that we record regular calls with the client, and I take the notes, which are AI recorded. I take the transcript, and based on that, and based on my strategic direction, that is based on years of experience, I will prompt AI to say, these are the goals we want to achieve. This is the client's target audience. I just need top-level content ideas to fit these content pillars that I have preset, not asked AI to come up with the content pillars. Once you give it parameters and it comes up with top-level content ideas, that's absolutely, then that's the line. That's where I would share, I would say to the client, based on our discussion that we had, your onboarding interview, your weekly call, I have brainstormed it with AI, without obviously giving away the client's intellectual property. And these are the content ideas. And then get the client to agree before writing out those posts, for example. Then you're both aware. And also, it gives the client an opportunity to add their own take, right? So the client might say, I don't want to talk about this particular post openly. Or, actually, I have some points, some ideas I want to add to this post. So it gives a chance for collaboration. So you use AI as a collaborative partner rather than the originator.
Okay, and what would you do about, like, for example, I find it useful for headlines?
Yeah.
Because you write the post and you just put it in, it's your post, probably done then and not anymore, but it just gives you examples about what headlines.
Yeah, so I would, so instead of asking it to give me a headline, I would say, give me 10 headline variations. And just say, and also prompt it in a way that you say, the goal of this post is this. You know, if the AI knows what the call to action is, whether to get people to email, sign up, book an intro call, the headline will have to be relevant to the call to action, really. And then, yeah, that's fine. You know, but use your creative freedom as well in that, and your critical thinking, because it's not about the hooks. The rest of the content has to promise on that hook, has to deliver on the promise of the hook, you know. Hooks act as clickbait at the moment. And for me, that's why I call it thinkbait, not clickbait. So if it's making the reader pause and think, and then the rest of the post gives value, and it's not just empty fluff that anybody could have written with AI, then you've done well, then the hook is fine.
But the thing is, if you don't have a good headline, nobody will read the rest.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, true. So it's actually, it's then better to post only 2 or 3 times a week, but high value, than post every day and post empty fluff that anybody can just ask ChatGPT. And also, to add to that, apparently everything that's online, 90% of everything that's online today has been produced in the last 2 years. 90% of all the data on the internet has been added over the last 2 years, and that's because of AI, that's because of ChatGPT and the likes. Now, how do you stand out in that noise? Not by writing like everyone else. Okay.
Thank you so much. One more question. No, I have to be your rephraser. I will be your AI today.
2 questions.
Okay, in case not everyone heard, the question is, how can someone prove that I used ChatGPT if, for example, we go to court, if it's edited?
Yeah. So the distinction here is that if it's written by AI, you don't own the copyright, not that ChatGPT owns the copyright. What I would say, if ChatGPT produces something that's picked out a sentence or a paragraph word for word from somebody else's work and you're unaware of, that copyright is with the originator, but you won't know.
Is like a false, like a bad citation in a scientific.
Exactly. But if there is a copyright infringement, it will be initiated by the originator, not by OpenAI. So somebody who's produced that work, if they come across it in your content and they feel that's mine word for word and I have evidence for it, that's when it, I would say, you know, so you can rewrite things, but if there is a phrase, you know, like for example, thinkbait, the word, I've got it trademarked. I own, if somebody else uses thinkbait without mentioning that it's my trademark, I could potentially take them to court. But it's not OpenAI. Just because OpenAI produced the copy for you doesn't mean they own it. What it does mean, you don't own it. It could be owned by another originator.
So here the question is about Midjourney. If the pictures, the graphics that are being produced there, if they don't have any specific signs referring any trademarks or anything like that, if this can be then used when it's generated there, if it can then be used for commercial purposes. And for the clients.
Yeah, so that is also my current understanding. So as long as there isn't any obvious logos, letters, words that are already owned by another originator, then that is my understanding, of course, without a legal background, that they can be used commercially. Of course, how that might change, and that, someone might create something similar by their hands on their own graphics tools, and then find your image and think this looks a bit too similar. So it's very difficult to define the line there. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing some legal cases coming out in that creative industry too. My expertise is more in written word, written copy, but we work with designers as well. So I know that they still prefer to create your own work for commercial use to be safe. Or they might start off the idea in Midjourney, but then they completely refine it and change it until it looks quite different to the original idea that Midjourney came up with. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, perfect. If there are further questions, and if there are not right now, I hope there will be, because this topic is so important that if we don't tackle it proactively, it will backfire in a couple of months or years, and that's going to be tragic. So, what I'm trying to say, connect with this amazing, knowledgeable individual, not just over LinkedIn, but when you have her here in real life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.